Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to What's the Damage, the good old WTD question mark here on my channel, the segment on this channel where I can unleash all of my inner rage and sadness and anger and sorrow, all the negative emotions that come with being a human being in today's day and age where everything is just so borderline offensive and makes people angry and they get so, butthurt over everything. So it's very easy to be angry, in today's modern era. And today I'm going to be covering a topic that is actually very controversial for a number of different reasons, depending on how you look at it, right? You guys may have noticed that lately I've been doing more basketball content on my channel, which is very awesome. I miss basketball so much, but I have actually been covering specifically the WNBA, right? The Women's National Basketball Association, because since I started doing basketball content on this channel some years ago, I've only been doing men's stuff, that didn't come out right. Doing men's stuff do not take that out of context. Do not clip this part and post it onto YouTube out of context, because people are gonna think I'm freaking Dennis Rodman or something. That guy was weird. But so I've always done men's basketball, in the NBA, playing with men's teams and talking about, male athletes and stuff, But lately I wanted to kind of, do something a little bit more inclusive and talk about the women in basketball, right? So I've been doing some player profiles and some female players, and also in NBA 2K24, I'm just doing WNBA playthroughs, right? So, and today I'm going to be talking about something within the same topic, because I feel like the WNBA has been getting a lot of hate over the years, and it seems, even though it's becoming more and more popular now, I feel like there's still a lot of prejudice against the league because there are women playing there. So, and the WNBA actually has a very interesting and rich history, right? So it was actually founded back in 1996 as a women's counterpart to the NBA, right? So it was founded almost 30 years ago, 28 years to be exact. So it's coming up on its 30th anniversary, and I'm curious to see which players are going to make the 30th anniversary team list. That's going to be really cool. But they actually started playing 1 year later in 1997, right? So now there have been a different number of teams. There are some that are still active today that were part of the original franchise, when they started the inaugural draft. Some have gone defunct, like the Houston Comets and the Miami Soul. They don't exist anymore. And like the regular season schedule goes from May all the way until September, and there is the WNBA All-Star game that's played right there in between that, in July, except for in Olympic years when we have the Olympic Games. And the playoffs themselves go from the end of September until the beginning of October, So there have been quite a few interesting teams. There are, I believe, 3 or 4 teams that have 4 championships each, which are, it's the most amount of championships, right? So, and it's very interesting because it's still basketball, it's a different brand of basketball. It's sort of like a more delicate play style than the regular NBA, which is a lot of men, with testosterones, right? So everything is all brutal and heavy and strong, whereas the women, they have a different kind of game, It's a little bit more grounded and balanced, and there are some women that are very, very rough around the edges too, but I feel like the WNBA, it's still basketball, but it's a different brand of basketball, a different flavor. Not necessarily better or worse than the regular NBA, I just think it's different, right? Let me elaborate on that just a little bit more, but before I do that, let's take a look at a random highlight here from a random WNBA game.
A 24-point Sky lead. Houston rumbling through, finds Griner for the dunk, and that's what the sellout crowd was waiting for. If there's a way to get a crowd excited when your team's down by 20 plus, that's it.
This is what we have not seen in the WNBA. We've seen players who can dunk the basketball if they get out and train.
You see? It can be entertaining. You just have to not be a douche about it, right? That's a really good highlight right there, man. It's like, because the WNBA games, they have a different energy, So I feel like it's very sad sometimes when, you see WNBA games and the arenas are like, like in half capacity, or they're barely filled up, to some degree, whereas the regular NBA games with the men, like even if it's just a season opener or a preseason game, it's like it's freaking packed, it's unfair, man. I think that the girls really deserve a much bigger audience, and I mentioned earlier that 3 or 4 teams won, 4 titles, right? But they were actually just 3, okay? They were exactly 3 teams who have the most titles right now, which is 4. So we have the Houston Comets, who are right now defunct, they don't exist exist anymore, but they had a very strong dynasty in the 90s and 2000s, right, with Cynthia Cooper, Tina Thompson, and Cheryl Swoops, right? We also have the Minnesota Lynx. They also share 4 titles with them, and the Seattle Storm, right? You know, home of Sue Bird, one of the greatest players of all time, you know, who is now retired. And now, like I said before, there are 12 teams right now in the league, but there are plans to expand that number to 13 in 2025, and in 2026 we're gonna have 14 teams, you know, so it's gonna be really nice to see, you know, what the new teams are, because the league is growing, guys. Every year there is an expansion, you know, financially speaking and also marketing wise, because if you go, there are some WNBA teams who I don't think even have social media. They don't have YouTube channels or maybe Twitter pages, you know, or Instagram, and if they do, the ones who do, they have a very small following, you know, like here on YouTube, their channels barely crack 10,000 subscribers, their videos barely get, you know, 1,000-2,000 views. So it's very sad to me, because I feel like at this point, because the league is coming up on its 3rd decade of existence, you know, in a day where social media is the norm and, you know, digital marketing is through the roof, I feel like these teams could have gotten a lot more exposure, you know. There have been some amazing players, you know, throughout the WNBA during its years in active, you know. There have been a lot of really memorable games as well, whether it's the conference finals, you know, semifinals, or actual WNBA finals. There have been players who have completely changed the game, you know. Lisa Leslie, for example, was the first player to ever dunk in a WNBA game, so that opened the door for other players to do the same, right? I mean, it's crazy, man. And we had also some really crazy playmaking let me rephrase. We've had some very good playmakers and assist producers, I can say, you know, like Sue Bird, right, who was very selfless in her game of basketball. There have been so many great players. Candace Parker, Ace. Like, I love the WNBA, and it's not just that specifically, it's basketball. I love basketball. It's my favorite sport, and I don't limit myself just to watching the NBA, because it's not the only form of basketball that there is. Yes, of course, it's the most popular, the most lucrative, it's the one that people prefer to watch and this and that, but like, I love basketball. I like NBA, I like the WNBA, I like the G League, I like the European leagues, you know. I like to watch movies and documentaries about it. I like to read articles online and stuff and play NBA 2K, you know, different kinds of leagues backwards. So if I'm walking down the street going to work or something, or to the supermarket, and I see a bunch of kids on the playground playing basketball, I might stop and watch if I have time, you know. I love basketball. So there are people who say that they are so in love with basketball, but they only watch the NBA. They only watch the men play, you know, and that's actually a little sexist if you think about it, because the justification that some of these people give for preferring the NBA is that they think that the women suck. They don't like the WNBA because they think that the men play better, and that's sexist. That's very, very misogynistic, in case you don't know. And everybody is allowed to have preferences, you know. You could prefer the NBA, you know, because of any number of reasons, but if you go out of your way to say that you think that it's because the men play better than the women, then you're a freaking misogynistic pig. You suck. The women, it's not that the men are better than the women, it's just a different kind of basketball. Men can dunk easily because in some cases they're taller, and I think it's also unfair how the rims in the NBA and WNBA are the same height, you know. The ones in the WNBA should be a little bit shorter so the girls can dunk better, you know. Because it's unfair for you to think that a woman can dunk exactly the same way that a man can, right? So I think if they made the rims a little bit shorter, it would be a little more fair and would make the games even more interesting, because it's not everyone who has the same kind of, you know, ability to dunk like a guy, right? So I'm just saying. Before I continue, another highlight here from a WNBA game.
Stats being disruptive. Another block, this time by McCowan. Smacks it. That's the second emphatic block.
Again, a very cool moment from a very good game, right? There are some very, very memorable highlights that you guys can find of the WNBA if you just take a few minutes to look them up on YouTube, right? You can't compare the WNBA directly to the NBA, right? Like, there are people who try to directly draw comparisons between them, and that's not how it works, you know? It doesn't make any sense, right? Yes, they are playing the same sport, but it's a different level, right? Again, not necessarily better or worse than the other. It's just different, you know? It's like men's soccer and women's soccer. They're playing the same sport, but it's a whole different energy. It's a different atmosphere with different tactics, you know, and different set pieces, you know, different skills, you know, different abilities. Everything is different, right? So it's the same but different at the same time. So if you try to directly correlate the NBA to the WNBA, then you're gonna have a hard time, right? Because, well, for starters, the NBA was founded in 1946, man. That was 78 years ago. And the WNBA, again, was founded in 1996. So that's 28 years ago. There's a 50-year difference. There's a 50-year gap between one and the other being founded. So you can't compare, for example, the Houston Comets to the Boston Celtics, right? Because the Houston Comets have 4 WNBA titles, and they won 4 of them consecutively. They won all of them, you know, in a row. Oh, these goddamn motorcycles, man. Holy freaking crap. The Houston Comets won their 4 WNBA titles in a row consecutively, right? And the Boston Celtics have won 18, but they've been active since the beginning of the league back in the 40s. You know, you can't compare them, right? Because again, there is a difference of 50 freaking years between those two leagues being founded. So the WNBA, for all intents and purposes, is still in its infancy because it's still expanding. There are more teams being added, and I think that the players are actually very great, man. You know, every generation of WNBA players we have, like, there are some who are in the GOAT conversation already. You know, you could argue that some are considered the greatest of all time. Me personally, I would put Sue Bird as the GOAT. You know, she to me is the Michael Jordan of WNBA, but you could also argue Cynthia Cooper, who is considered to be, you know, unanimously the greatest, but that's just your opinion, you know. But like right now we have some really good players, man. You know what? We've got Sabrina Ionesco and also Breanna Stewart. There's Caitlin Clark, you know, who just started her career, you know, recently. Like, I think that there are players who, if you give them a chance, if you watch them and see how they play, you're going to see that they do have a lot to offer to the sport on the court. And I think that we as a society have got to give these women a chance. We have to. You don't have to stop watching the men play, but also watch the women play every now and again, you know. I support the Los Angeles Lakers, but I am also somewhat sympathetic to the Los Angeles Sparks, you know. Like, I don't directly support them, but I do watch their games when I can, right? Because they are the women's counterpart. They are the WNBA affiliate to my Lakers. So they even play in the same arena, man, Crypto.com arena. So I mean, like, if I ever happen to be in the LA area and I watch the Lakers play, I can also watch the Sparks play. So, but it's like, I mean, it's weird how people can't see this, you know? Like, some people claim to be such fans of basketball, and they literally only watch the NBA. They don't care about the Olympics, for example. They don't care about the players. You know, right now America is playing, you know, I don't know exactly what it is, if it's like the pre-elimination phase of the Olympics, or if it's just, I don't know, but they're playing right now. I'm watching those games. They're awesome. Freaking LeBron James up in this house right here. And I also like to watch the women play as well, because the WNBA, they've also had a lot of really amazing players who were pulled from there and put into the Team USA, right, the national team, and they've also won a lot of titles. You know, they've won a lot of Olympics as well. So I think it's very unfair how people feel like only the men matter in this context, you know. There have been women in the WNBA who have also won multiple championships. Sue Bird won multiple championships in different decades, the only player to do so. There's Diana Taurasi, who's a freaking beast and still playing right now. You know, they've won MVPs. They've been elected, you know, the best player of the year. You know, they've won other awards as well. They made the WNBA all-time anniversary team. Their jerseys were retired, this and that, you know. So I mean, like, there is a lot to be admired in a WNBA as well. So I think that it's really unfair, you know. Whenever a woman is the scoring leader or the rebound leader or the assist leader, or she scores a triple-double in the game, it seems to be overshadowed by whatever happens in the NBA on that particular week, you know, which is very unfair. I think I've said the word unfair 4 or 5 times in this video. Maybe it'll be the title of the video. The WNBA is unfair, or whatever the thing is. I'm gonna wrap this up soon, but before that, one final clip from a more recent WNBA game here.
They shot a lot of 4-pointers as Sabrina knocks that one down for a 4-pointer. Ryan Howard just going to tie her shoe. You don't have to be as concerned with the defensive end as Sabrina hits another. We have a line change coming in for Team Wilson.
We might need a timeout to get it as well.
Yeah. Sabrina, another. Oh my, this is incredible.
And that's it. That is the final clip that I'm gonna show you guys here. I believe I showed you 3 clips, you know, 3 random highlights, but you can go on YouTube and watch as many highlights as you want, man. Give the WNBA a chance to entertain you if you're a fan of basketball. And I even have 5 choice games here, you know, 5 different memorable highlights, you know, not highlights, but 5 games that I think that if you're starting to get into the WNBA, you should be aware of. Go on YouTube later and look up highlights from the following games, okay? Game 2 of the 1999 WNBA Finals between the New York Liberty and the Houston Comets. You're going to see Cynthia Cooper and her dynasty in action there. There's also my personal recommendation, Game 2 of the 2002 WNBA Finals between the Los Angeles Sparks and the New York Liberty. Also a very memorable game of basketball as well. Then there's Game 1 of the 2009 WNBA Finals, which you can check out between the Phoenix Mercury and the Indiana Fever. Also a very pulse-pounding game that was decided right down to the wire. Then there's Game 5 of the 2016 WNBA Finals, you know, between the Los Angeles Sparks and the Minnesota Lynx. That game, oh boy, it was decided by just 1 freaking point on the scoreboard. And just watch the highlights and you'll see what I mean. And also more recently, there was Game 3 of the 2002 semifinals right between the Las Vegas Aces and the Seattle Storm. Also very worth your time as well. The Las Vegas Aces are the current champions of the WNBA, and they just won their 2nd consecutive title. So they won in 2022 and 2023, you know. So if they win 3 more, man, if they win just 1 more, that's already a dynasty right there, you know. They're gonna have a freaking 3-peat, right? Remember, the Chicago Bulls had 2 different 3-peats, you know, but not even they could win 4 in a row, right? And the Houston Comets, Minnesota Lynx, and Seattle Storm, well, sorry, just the Houston Comets won 4 in a row, right? But I don't know where I was going with that, sorry. And I mean, look, right now the current commissioner for the WNBA is Kathy Eagleburg, and she's been a commissioner since 2019. She's trying her hardest, man, you know, she's really working hard to keep the business afloat and expand more, you know, divulge more through social media. So obviously the WNBA's marketing budget is much less, you know, than the NBA, right? So I think that the women, the athletes who play should have equal pay, you know, and I also think that the WNBA deserves a similar budget, right, to the NBA, so they could, you know, have more marketing and stuff, you know. I personally think that we should give them a chance. I do my part. I watch the games when I can. I tweet about them. I record videos for YouTube, you know, even though my videos don't get a lot of views. But the people who do watch this video, I hope you like it and it kind of raises awareness, let's say, you know, maybe it gets you more interested in watching the women's league, because I really think that they deserve it, you know. I really think they do. And that's it, guys. I think I'm gonna wrap this up here now. I've talked a lot about it. It's a topic that I'm passionate about, you know, sports and women's rights and this and that, you know. I think everybody deserves the same amount of exposure, you know, in the sporting world. And that's it. So I'm gonna wrap this up here. Let me know in the comments below what you think. If you watch the women's league, you know, women's basketball in general, if you're a fan, if you're not, if you have your own opinions, share them down below. But if you start being, you know, sexist or, you know, freaking misogynistic, well, I can't promise that my female subscribers won't freaking destroy you in the comment section. So anyway, guys, if you happen to like this video, please go ahead and give it a like, and also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell too, so you can know exactly what time I upload. And it's all good. It's all good. This is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Roll the outro screen.